Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. I'm delighted to welcome to this first session on educational psychology, a subject that blends the science of psychology with the art of teaching. Whether you plan to be a teacher, a counselor, psychologist, or education leader, this course will help you understand how people learn and how that knowledge transforms classrooms. Educational psychology is not just about knowing theories, it's about using those memories to make learning more effective, inclusive, and meaningful. So, let's begin at the root. What is educational psychology and why does it matter so much today? So, educational psychology is the study of how people, especially students, learn and develop in educational settings. It asks, how does memory work in learning? What motivates a student? How can teachers manage behavior positively? Why do different students respond differently to the same lesson? It blends. Cognitive psychology, how the brain processes information. Developmental psychology, how people grow and change. And educational practice, how we teach and design classrooms. It also focuses on individual differences, learning styles, prior knowledge, cultural backgrounds, emotional needs. Let me give you a real world example. Imagine a classroom with 25 students. Some are talkative, others are shy. A few are excellent readers, but others struggle with comprehension. One student speaks a different language at home and other has a diagnosed learning disability. How should the teacher teach one lesson that reaches all of them? That's where educational psychology becomes essential. In short, educational psychology helps us understand the learner, the teacher, the learning environment. Each one influences educational success. Why is it important? So, let's go deeper into why this subject matters. Educational psychology acts as toolkit for educators. It helps turn theory into action. It gives teacher the power to plan more inclusive lessons, understand student behavior, choose strategies that improve learning for everyone. So, here is another example, a teacher that notices her students are not interested in reading assignments. So, instead of just blaming the students, she uses psychological strategies like introducing choice, adding visuals, and connecting content to their real life. That's educational psychology in action. It also supports differentiated instruction, teaching to different levels at once, classroom management, promoting good behavior through clear expectations, assessment, using tools that truly measures learning, not just memorization. And for diverse learners, those with special needs or language differences, educational psychology helps create strategies that work. Let's look at the core questions that guide this field. Core questions in educational psychology. Educational psychologists ask big questions like, how do students learn best? What methods help them retain, apply, and connect knowledge? How does emotion affect learning? For example, can anxiety reduce performance? Can curiosity enhance it? What role does culture and background play in education? How do we make learning inclusive for all identities? How can teachers grow? What feedback, training, or reflection helps students become better and what they do? Think of a great teacher you had. What made them effective? Was it the way they explained ideas? The way they encouraged you? That's the beauty of this field. It turns good teaching into intentional teaching. Now, let's talk about who studies this subject and why. Educational psychology is studied by teachers to understand how students learn and how to teach more effectively. School counselors to support students emotionally and academically. Educational leaders to improve students' policies and performance. Clinical psychologist to diagnose and support learning or developmental changes. Each role uses this knowledge differently. For example, and how do they apply it? They rely on learning theories. Let's look at a few of the most important ones. Foundational theories. Number 1, Piaget's cognitive development theory. He said children move through stages of thinking. A 5-year-old thinks differently than a 10-year-old, not just less but differently. This helps teachers choose age-appropriate content. Vygotsky's social learning theory. He said learning happens through interaction and language. Teachers can help students more effectively by working in the zone of proximal development. What they can do with sport. Behaviorism. This focuses on rewards, punishments, and consequences. Want students to participate? You might use praise or points, but be aware, overusing rewards can reduce natural motivation. Cognitive theories, these explore how information is stored, retrieved, and forgotten. How do we help students move information from short-term to long-term memory? Each theory offers tools to solve different classroom problems. Think of them as lenses. When one does not fit, another might. How students learn? Let's connect theory to actual student learning. Students do not just receive knowledge, they construct it. This involves three major processes. First of all, cognitive, how they think; emotional, how they feel; behavioral, how they act. A child might understand the lesson, but if they are scared of speak up, they won't learn fully. And other student might feel excited and curious, so they explore, ask questions and remember more. That's why emotional safety and positive relationships are critical. Learning is also social. Group projects, peer discussions, teacher-student interaction, these are not distractions. They are how knowledge is built. And how do teachers improve their teaching? Reflective teaching. It means thinking deeply about what you teach, how you teach, and what your students are experiencing. So, there are three main types. First of all, reflection in action, changing course mid-lesson. Reflection on action, analyzing a lesson afterward. Reflection for action, planning for future improvements. Effective teachers do all three, constantly learning from their own practice. Here are some tools that support reflection. Teaching journals, peer feedback, student surveys, recording and reviewing your own lesson, mentorship and coaching. Reflection helps teachers adapt, not just repeat the same lesson every year, and some teachers take this a step further. They become classroom researchers. First of all, action research. It means teachers use their own classrooms to identify challenges, test solutions, collect the data, reflect and improve. This is not complicated research. It is practical. Consider the following example. A teacher notices students are not paying attention in morning maths class. So, she tries adding music and movements to the start of the lesson. He observes how students respond and check quiz results. Based on what works, he adjusts again. This is the scientific method applied to teaching. Data can be qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative, student codes, observations. Quantitative, scores, participation rates. Teachers become empowered decision makers, not just content delivers, applying in psychology classroom. Let's now connect everything with some practical classroom strategies. It can be used in multiple ways, such as motivation, memory, behavior, and inclusions. Here is a scenario. A student is often late and does not submit homework. Instead of labeling them lazy, an educational psychologist would ask, is there any learning issue, a home stressor, lack of connection to the content? She adjusts by counseling, adjusting content and building trust. Educational psychology gives teachers the lens and the tools to respond with empathy and strategy, not frustration. Real classroom examples and strategies. So, let's walk through two quick case studies. Case study number 1. A grade 3 teacher notices one student is withdrawn and never participates using Vygotsky's theory. She pairs the child with a sportive peer. Gradually, participation improves. Case study number 2. A high school teacher uses reflection after noticing his students struggle with essay structure. He revises the lesson to include visual outline and modeling. Scores improves the next week. These are not magical fixes. They are grounded in psychology, observation, thoughtful adaptation. Let's recap what we have learned so far. Educational psychology connects theory to practice. It helps teachers understand how students learn best. It addresses emotion, behavior, and motivation. It supports inclusive student-centered classrooms. It turns teachers into reflective thinkers and researchers. Ask yourself, what kind of teacher or educator do I want to be? How will I use these ideas in my future? This course will continue to give you tools to shape your approach and mindset. Thank you for spending this time with me in today's introduction to educational psychology. We have built a strong foundation. What educational psychology is, why it matters, key theories, and real classroom application. The role of reflection and research in teaching. As we move forward, we will explore major learning theories in depth, motivation strategies, classroom management, student assessment, and designing inclusive education for all the learners. I encourage you to reflect your own learning experiences, stay curious, and begin to think like an educator who sees the whole student mind, heart, and behavior. Until next time, stay thoughtful, stay engaged. Goodbye, and I will see you in the next session. Thank you for engaging with this lecture. I look forward to continuing our exploration educational psychology in sessions ahead.